moving on, it wouldn't shock me if it came out on this report that Les Miles was smoking some cannabis down at LSU because he was pretty much doing everything else down at LSU. It came out in that report. What a shocking report about Les Miles, the head coach of, obviously he was formerly Kansas and LSU. But the report was when he was his time at LSU, but it got him fired at Kansas this week. So what do you think about it, Pat? I'm laughing because, like I said, with the joke I just told.
Yeah, Les Miles was obviously a great coach at LSU. I always thought there was something off about him, just by the way that he talked to people. And when the reports came out and I was reading about how he was talking to some female, workers for the team, it just didn't shock me. I'm picturing Les Miles doing that, whereas other college coaches, I would be shocked if they were caught in those situations or said things like that. Some of these, college football, college basketball, some of these big time college coaches, because they make so much money for the universities, they get away with murder. I didn't want to use that word, but they get away with murder. And it's because of the money that they make or because of the recruits they can bring in. You look at a guy like Urban Meyer, who was at 3 different Division I, programs, was an awesome coach at all 3 programs. There were national title contenders and won national titles at each, won national titles in Florida, were contenders even at Utah, and then with Alex Smith, and then, later on with Ohio State. So, these guys get away with a lot. And I think now with everything happening in this country, it's trickling down to professional and college sports as well. And we've seen a lot of this with politicians in Hollywood. It's going to happen across the board. And now you're going to see, the good part of all this too is that especially women now have more confidence in coming out and talking about this. And I think, all the gymnasts that came out and talked about Larry Nassar, those incredible women, what they did there, I think that's inspiring other women to come and talk about this stuff. And, what happened with Les Miles, I don't think he physically abused anybody or anything like that, but just the way that he talked to people, he's looked at as a god on that campus, just like Joe Paterno was looked at as a god at Penn State, and these guys are, they're more powerful than any of the administration at the school, just because of the way that they can influence people's attitudes and the way that they think about the school. So they need to not use that power to their advantage to just get what they want, especially when it's dealing with females. So, even if he was just saying weird, stuff, it's still sexual harassment. It's still these types of things that shouldn't be tolerated on a college campus. He's supposed to be leading a group of young men, 18 to 23-year-olds. He should be the example for them. He and the coaching staff should be the ones that are providing the example of what it means to be a man, on top of other people in those players' lives. This is the complete opposite of that. This is showing them how not to be a man. So it doesn't surprise me that Kansas just said, you got to go. Kansas football still needs a lot of help anyway. So, I don't blame them for getting rid of Les Miles. But, yeah, it makes total sense to just get him out of there because, I wouldn't be shocked if some reports came out that he talked to people at Kansas that way.
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, hey, if you're liking this show and you're liking what we're talking about, give us a subscribe. Give us a subscribe. Give us a like because, we're going to have more hot topics like this and great opinions. But, yeah, I'm not shocked either. And here's why. I'm going to make another quick joke. But do you remember him eating grass at LSU? Before the game, he would pick up grass and eat it as his pregame ritual. So like you said, this guy is just a little off anyway. So I'm not shocked either. I'm not shocked at some of the stuff he was doing or saying at LSU. And then, it's one of these things, too, when you start to win and you start to just think you can do whatever you want sometimes. And I think that's what Les Miles was doing, unfortunately, at LSU and just going around and thinking it wasn't going to come back to bite him. But he's finding out it came back to bite him even years later when he's coaching for a totally different team. And I think you bring up a great point, how he's supposed to be like the leader of men. And obviously showing these young men, generally most of them are 18 to 22 or 18 to 23 years old, who are obviously still trying to learn how to treat women themselves and, and interacting with these college women every day themselves. So, yeah, they do need someone to actually show them what's the proper way of doing it and how to be a gentleman and how to actually be a man. So I think that's number one reason why he gets fired, right? Because you're a leader of men and you're actually not doing that, or you're being a poor example. Even Kansas had asked him in his interview, is there anything in your past that is going to embarrass the university? And he said no. And so I don't think, obviously most people would say that in their interview and not to kind of own up to that right away, but it came back to bite him. But on top of that, the guy that asked him that question, the Kansas athletic director, he just got fired today as well. He just got fired today as well, and it's all because he hired Les Miles. And so the school is now cleaning up their reputation and saying, hey, anybody that had a hand in bringing this guy in and not knowing what he did formerly at LSU, and then you bring him here to Jayhawk land, you've got to go now. And so they're looking to clean house at this point and wash their hands of this situation, and I don't blame them. And like you said, I mean, he hasn't done anything good at Kansas. Their team still sucks, and they need to recruit better, and they need to play better football. So you haven't seen any results, and the guy gets paid millions of dollars. And I think that's another reason why, like you said, these guys have a lot of pull on these campuses, is obviously the pull and control they have over the fan base, the student base, and the administration, but also the boosters. And the boosters are the ones who bring in the millions and billions of dollars to these programs and to these universities. And sometimes it's directly correlated through the coach. So I think it's one of those things where, I think Kansas made the right decision and just said, we're better off starting off from scratch and finding a better coach and washing our hands of this situation.
Yeah, I mean, they essentially nipped it in the bud and got him out of there. Makes sense. Why let this drag on further? And even let there be a chance that he's on campus right now, so and doing anything else stupid. So I think that was the right move by Kansas, and hopefully other coaches learn from this. I don't see how, over what's happened in the past couple of years, you haven't been able to learn from this yet. But again, if Les Miles can get fired for something from a previous job, then if you're doing something at your job, you could easily get fired. So I think this is a big message to college football coaches as well. And like I said, he didn't necessarily physically, even put his hands on somebody, but just the way that he treated people and the way that he made it uncomfortable for female workers around the team, that's not going to fly. And I think Kansas sent a good message and getting rid of him.